All right, this session is going to cover the fourth exercise in the series for shape building and tracing practice. And on my screen, I have what we've done so far. We started with this exercise in the Android. We then went to the Twitter bird here with the pen tool. And we ended up on this Batman logo, which we use ellipses and the direct select tool, along with add anchor point to edit a couple of parts of this image to get it just right. And as you can see, I've selected some pretty crazy colors and patterns for both the stroke, which I want you to know that you can actually apply patterns to the stroke or different, um, I guess, decorations to the stroke, as well as the fill. Both can have those applied to them as long as you select and enable one or the other. Okay, so this is going to be a two-part because of how much is involved in this exercise 4. We're going to set up the tracing with a couple things, layers, artboards, so on and so forth. We're also going to use some color cubes on the page, and then there'll be a second video to kind of show how we're going to put everything together. So let's first start in Schoology. Let's make sure that you have downloaded all 4 images. All right, specifically this one, the Dodge Challenger. That's the one we're going to be using. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch back to Illustrator, and the first thing that I'm going to do is set up a new artboard. I wanted these to all be on separate artboards. So let's go to File and New, and they're all going to be the same. So let's stick with the art and illustration. We've been using 1280 by 1024 as the preset. We're going to use pixels as the unit, and then we're going to go ahead and name this exercise 4. You can use an underscore if you like, and your last name. I'm going to add that this is a demo. You don't have to do that. I'm also going to leave it as landscape because the Challenger is, wide, not tall. Go ahead and check my settings. And if yours are the same, we're going to go ahead and hit create. All right, just like the ones before, working with template layers, we're going to go ahead and bring that Challenger image in as a template layer. And to do that, we're going to go to File. We're not going to open it, we're going to place it, okay, because it was not created in Illustrator, therefore it's bitmap, and we don't want to open bitmap images in Illustrator. So we're going to place it. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to where that is, my desktop, illustration, and there's the image. I'm going to make sure that I select template before I hit place. Okay, so select, make sure link is on, make sure template's on, and then hit place. All right, it is another small image, so we are going to go to our layers panel. And we're actually going to work in here quite a bit, so you might want to float your layers panel out a little bit. Right about there would be good. I'm going to unlock the template layer, and I'm going to zoom out because I need to resize. I'm going to use Shift and Alt. Remember, 2 hands to design. Go ahead and just get it as large as you can, as long as the car fits on the artboard. Okay, you can have it extend past the left and right side, and then immediately lock that back. Okay, always good habit, keep that locked. Now this is going to be different because what we're preparing for is your vector portrait, and your vector portrait will be something taken from an actual photograph. And of course, photographs have millions and millions of colors in them. So the job of someone that wishes to trace is to limit those colors. All right, that's the important thing, is we want to limit those colors, because if we try to trace all the colors We might as well just keep it as an image. The idea is we're making some derivative, a vector version of something. All right, so we're focusing on shapes and we're simplifying our color palette. All right, I'm going to select that layer above because if you do make something a template prior to bringing it into or placing it, then you're going to get that special layer and then you're going to get an extra layer above it. We're going to go ahead and name this layer because we're going to make a couple of them. This one's going to be color 1. I think what we're going to do is limit the colors of this image to 2 colors. I think we have it. Yeah, 2 colors. We could do 3 gray and then we could have black. Yeah, let's go with 3 colors here. All right, so 3 base colors. Now, if we're working with 3 base colors, then we're actually going to end up with 9. 9 colors overall. Yeah, let's do 9. So we're going to hit that new layer button a couple times here. All right. And we're going to name each of those color 1, color 2. So let's spend a little bit of time setting this up. All right, so I'm naming all these, and it looks like I need one more layer. That's color 8 and color 9. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, so now we need to make a color palette, one that's specifically for this image. All right, and you don't have to use the colors that are in it. I think that the 2 colors that are going to probably be required are going to be black and gray. And so you're probably like, okay, well, black, you only get black, but we're going to actually do shades of that. And then gray, which will be just a lighter tone. And you see that the base color here is orange, okay? But it doesn't have to be, all right? In fact, you can choose your favorite color or your second favorite color or something like that. So here's how that's going to look. Let's go to our template layer and select it. And a little bit about layers. When you select a layer and then you hit new layer, a new one appears above the one that you have selected. So with template selected right now, and again, it's locked, I'm going to go ahead and hit new layer, and it's going to make one just above. We're going to call this color palette, 1L, 2 T's. Altogether, you should now have 11 layers, including the template. All right, we're going to lock all layers except for color palette because that's the one we're going to work on right now. I'm going to zoom back in, and the first thing I'm going to grab is the rectangle tool. Let's make some color cubes. Let's start with 1. All right, I'm going to go ahead and make a color cube, and I'll hold shift to make it proportional. After all, it is a cube, not a rectangle. All right, now this first one is going to serve as the first color in our palette. And I want to start with the obvious colors here. So I said we're going to use black. Now, when we get to the actual self-portrait, black and white are actually going to be detail colors. So you really won't have to set aside layers for them. There'll be a single layer used for those. And I'll go into detail as to how that will play out for that particular assignment. But right now, we are going to use black as one of our colors and give it a couple shades. So let's first off make that square. Let's turn off the stroke. It's important that none of these squares have a stroke color. We're then going to enable the fill, and it's probably best to just start with black. Okay. Now here's a little trick that you can use to get your other two shades. And by the way, this kind of scheme is called monochromatic, where we're taking shades of a single color to create our palette. In this case, we're going to take shades of black, and I know that's like sounds really weird, but we're going to need that because that is, in this image. You could see it in the glass, you can see it in the tire. And if you wanted to kind of recreate some of those details, then you would need those shades. They are darker shades, or can be darker shades. And then you have your gray for your rims and the brake disc are, yeah, the rim I think is mainly what that is, and the brakes are in the background there. But we can use those shades of gray for that as well. So let's make a copy of this. And I think the best way to do this is if you make a copy and then hop on over here to your toolbar, you're going to see that color represented in the fill. My favorite way to make colors is to use the color picker. And so I went ahead and double clicked that fill and I got this. Now the benefit of this is that you get hues and you get value. Okay. So with the value currently being down in the bottom right corner, okay, what I can do is now just move that value up in this direction. And what I'm looking for is this change right here. That's the next shade that I want. And I got there by just simply moving upwards in my tones section. Not to blue, of course, or not to a color, but staying close to the bottom and the left side. Okay. So I'm just going to go a little bit lighter and I'm going to hit OK. And check that out. You get that shade. Now I'm going to copy it again, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start from that point, double click on the fill. This time I'm going to move up a little bit higher in the tones until I get a shade that I want. And there you go. So already I have three tones here, and they're not too far apart that it makes a patchwork design, but they're far enough apart that I can kind of emulate form. Remember from the elements of design, form, which creates depth. All right. So this is our first set of colors. Okay, let's get our next. For this one, I can go ahead and make a copy, and we're doing gray. So I'm going to go ahead and do the darkest shade of my gray colors here. So I'm going to actually go in, and that one is going to be the darkest one. So I'm just going to go up a little bit because now we're doing metal, and that will be the shadow for the metal right here, the rims and all that. Okay, make another copy. And let's continue. I want to move that up a little bit more. There we go. And you can always come back and make an adjustment to this. That's the good thing about the palette. And I'll go up just a little bit more. Right about there is good. All right, so I've got my two out of my three base colors going. Now I've got to figure out what I want for the car itself. Now I just always default to green. So green is going to be my color. So my base color has to be a shadow first. I'll make a copy. And this is the first time we're going to actually change our hue. So let's move this down to, or up to whatever color you want to use for your car. That's a good place right there. And now I need to do the darkest shade of that color. So I'll go with this forest green color and hit OK. And then I'll do that. I'll make another copy. And now I can move up more northwest with it, not north, because then I'll go into these lime colors and I don't want that. Neon colors and I don't want that. So let's go with something like that. And then the last one, which will make for 9 colors altogether. There you go. All right, that's how you make your palette. Now let's assign them. I know that you're aware of the order here, but let's make sure we are totally aware of the order here. I'm going to go ahead and take the type tool, and still on the color palette, I'm going to go ahead and number these. Let's remember what we did on the design artboard for the elements of design, where we use 2 hands, hotkeys, escape, all that good stuff. So I'm going to just click once, which means I'm doing a point type. I want to go ahead and establish my font size real quick. So I'll just use the options bar to do that, and I'm going to raise it up to maybe like a 30, 32. It looks good. And this will be 1. I'm going to escape and then use my select tool to move this into place, or my arrow keys, whichever one's better. Okay. Select T. Click again. This will be 2. Escape. Move it into place. All right. T. All right. Same thing. I'm going to actually just go ahead and make them, and then I'll arrange them afterwards. 4. All right, so now the great thing about, you know, um, kind of doing it, being able to do it fast like that, is I can now do this. Check this out. I'm going to go ahead and actually, knowing what I know a little bit, I'm going to zoom in first of all, because it's hard to select these. Okay. Now here's what we can do. We're going to move the first and the last into place, like where we want them. Okay. Then you can just select all of these. All right, be careful that it's only the numbers that you're selecting and not your squares. All right, if that's the case, then you can always use Shift and select them by clicking on them. That might be easier. That way you don't accidentally get your squares. Now, in your options bar, you should see a quick reference to what's called your alignment. And in your align, which is also a panel, okay, you can align to the selection that you have. You can align to the artboard. You can align to a key object if you want everything to kind of refer to that. Usually you're going to be using selection or artboard. So let's consider selection, and that's right here. Now you have these 12, what is it? Yeah, 12 choices here and how you can align. And what I want to do is get these all aligned horizontally. And I will also want to be able to space them so that they align with these squares that are right there. So I'm looking through this, and the one that seems to make sense to me is this align vertical center. So let's try that, and that works. And I'm keep going, and I'm looking for something that's going to arrange them and space them out evenly. And the one that's going to work for me is horizontal distribute center. You can tell by the symbols how it's going to be aligned. So we used this one, vertical align center, and then we're using horizontal distribute. All right, and that's just a really quick way without sitting there eyeballing it to get everything to align the way you want. We are now done with the color palette, and we want to lock it, and it's going to remain locked for the rest of the assignment, because we're protecting it. Now we are going to still be able to interact with it, and it's important that we're able to interact with it because we're going to use those colors. But for right now, it's going to be locked. The only time it should be unlocked is if you're updating the colors. Okay? All right. Now you can actually work in any order, but I think you should go with what's called your base colors first. Okay? And in this case here, let's see, I'll show you. Let's consider the tires. Okay? And anything else that uses pure black. Okay? We've got some shapes in here like the tire itself. And then on top of that, you see that there's some highlight from the lighting. So that could be considered maybe our 3. And then there's a little bit of leftover lighting that's down here. That could maybe be 2. All right. But either way, the base color is black. Okay. That's going to sit below everything. You, you're going to see that the grill also has black. The windshield is black mostly. There's a little bit of maybe a 2 in there. Okay. Definitely this is going to have the shades in them. But again, the base color is still black. It's the shape that's going to sit below everything. Okay. So that counts as a base color. Then you have the rims. Okay. In this case here, what seems to be showing more? The light, the midtone, or the shadow? And in my opinion, it looks mostly like it's the midtone, and then you're using the darker shades of gray for the shadow inside here. Okay, and then of course you have your highlights right along there. So, so far, 1 and 5 are base colors. So I'm going to put a little star over there. You don't have to do that, but I'm just going to mark it. Okay. And then I'm also going to say that 5 is the other one there. There we go. Okay. Now let's look for our third base color. All right. Now looking at this, and again, because I'm changing the green, what seems to be the majority color? Well, check it out. The shadow is only at the bottom. That's pretty much the only place you see it, which is going to be your 7. Then you have a highlight right along here for the lighting, and that's going to probably be your 9. So I'm looking at possibly 8 being the base color, and that's the color we're going to make the entire car. Okay, and it'll sit below everything. So star goes to 8. These are our base colors. Okay. All right, now that we've got these base colors, just to kind of give you an idea of what's going to go down in the second video, because we're actually done with the setup. For the most part, we're going to start with 1, 5, and 8. So that means in the next video, we're going to start building our shapes. All right. I'm going to use a combination of shape tools and pen tool. Okay. And we're going to trace those base objects. For instance, for ones, we'll trace the entire tire. So there'll just be a circle there. We'll make a shape right in here, probably with the pen tool. We'll trace the front windshield. We'll trace the side windshield. And then we'll make a circle for the back tire as well. Okay. You can do the wheel wells later. Okay. For 5s, we're going to make a single circle probably for that. And we're going to figure out a clever way to kind of get these holes in here because you don't want to include those on that layer. But we're going to make a base layer here. I think I got some ideas of how we can maybe create that with 5 only. Okay. And then for 8, we're going to trace the entire vehicle with the pen tool. Okay, so that should give you an idea of how the next video will start. But make sure your layers are all set up. Okay, I'm going to lock my color palette back. If I begin, then I probably will unlock color 1. So you'll see me have that unlocked for the next video. And from there, I'll go ahead and trace those items, lock it, move to the next layer and trace those items, lock it, move to the next layer, trace those items, and then lock it before going into my other details. All right. So this was part 1, setup of exercise 4. All right. See you in the next video. Yeah, I might lighten these colors a little bit. I'm not sure. I think that would be a good idea. All right, let me save this. File, save as, and it's gonna go right in here, I think. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to put it in here.